This is CannaBiz Conversations. I am your fortunate and lucky host, Sean Welsh. Today is all about the creators segment, right? So I want to talk to everybody about why we did this. What was the point? What do we hope to gain from it? What do we hope to bring to the community? How do we hope to grow things? And I do that best by bringing on the man who, frankly, it's his idea. I'm just a front man. I'm a guy who can easily talk about his passion, one of which is obviously the beautiful plants I have in front of us here. So easy for me, but if you don't know him, you do now. Tim Rowe, how you doing?
Sean Welsh, it's great to share a microphone with you once again. Thanks for being open to the idea of this project. You're an
Buddy, I'm happy to do it. And funny enough, the last time we did a podcast together,
it feels like it was like around this time.
It was around, dude, not only does it feel that way because it was around this time, 2018, 19. It was life before COVID. We know that for sure.
Before COVID.
So I want to say 2018, 2019. It's all a little furry. I had the idea of trying to recruit Tim Rowe to our organization. This was, like I said, a long time ago. So I thought the best way to have a recruiting trip was to show off our wares, you know, what we have in front of us. And Tim Rowe, also a gigantic Packer fan like myself. So I invited him up to the great state of Wisconsin for a Packer game, baby. And cannabis plays into this story as well, because on the way up, we stopped for a bite to eat and a cocktail. And I had not done what I would normally do while driving multiple hours in my car. And because I met Tim Rowe through LinkedIn. I didn't know him as an individual person and hang out. And I don't know, it was like halfway through dinner or something. The conversation sort of shifted gears into cannabis. And Tim was like, yeah, man, you know, be great. I'd totally be down. I'm like, well, fuck, if that's the case, bro. We still got another hour and a half car ride. We're straight up and down on this deal.
And Sean's being really
did that catch you by surprise when that whole conversation, or did you already? Because I don't know what I put out in the world before that, but was that already something you were aware of, or was that surprising?
You know, it's a good question, because I think even for myself in my own cannabis journey, I wasn't yet to the place where I was consuming on a frequent basis. So it wasn't really something that I was, you know, doing every day or, you know, did often. So I think, yeah, I probably was surprised, but definitely excited, because we had a long drive to go, and it wasn't just any drive. It was like snowing, and the snow was the size of snowballs.
Yeah. So we caught some lake effect there on our way into Green Bay. We definitely caught the weather, but safely we arrived. And I remember the room only because you look out the room window, and there was Lambeau Field, the big G, just staring right at it. That was awesome. That was an awesome trip, dude.
Awesome trip. Awesome. Thank you again. And yeah, what a great
I guess T Rowe, Google the night Mike McCarthy was fired, because that was the night. That was
the night.
You know, that was when we thought we had won the Super Bowl. Walking into bars, people's attitude for losing a game to a bad football team was just through the roof. People were so excited, and you and I were talking shit walking out of the stadium. They'd never fire him. They'd never do the big move. They'd never do this. And
by the time we got back to the hotel, it was on the radio. Mike McCarthy has been fired. And the hotel was only like a 3-block walk from Lambeau. So it was pretty immediate after that loss.
We changed up our clothes because we had all our snow shit on from sitting outside for 3 hours in 25-degree weather. And we put on our bar clothes, walked into the bar. Man, it was a straight up party.
Everyone was excited.
It was a straight up party.
So fun. Well, I'm excited to obviously dive into the
let's do it. Let's talk about it. So when we talk about you just kind of alluded a little bit to your cannabis journey. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it? Obviously, you have a background, military, etc. Tell us about how you found the plant and what it means to you today and how you utilize it.
Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you for asking it, because it's an opportunity to tell, to me, a really personal story of kind of how I guess figured it out, for lack of a better phraseology there. But specifically, you know, I dabbled a little bit in high school, you know, smoked with my friends and, you know, hang out in the parking lot, hide from cops and do all that stuff. But I didn't start to seriously think of it as a medicine until probably a decade later, in my late 20s, as I started to get into advertising, and I was working with a medical dispensary in Pennsylvania. It was when Pennsylvania was first getting dispensaries and medical was coming online there. And I went to the grand opening, And the woman who was opening the dispensary was this really inspiring doctor, and was just sharing stories about how the plant had changed people's lives. How, a child with autism who'd never been able, his parents had never been able to hug him. They found a way to treat him with CBD, and his parents were able to hug him for the first time after 12 years. And that, like, those stories at that grand opening really started changing my mindset about the plant as like this thing I did recreationally to like feel good. My 0 calorie, right? It's like my 0 calorie chill, and start thinking about it as, oh gosh, I wonder if this is maybe something that could help me with anxiety, ADHD, and some of the things that were really, really limiting me in my professional career. I was jumping jobs every 12, 18 months. We've known each other long enough at this point. Like, where I was at that point in my walk. And as I started to discover the medicinal properties of cannabis and how to microdose and how to kind of like get my vibe right, it's changed my life. I have a podcast of my own for 4.5 years now, consulting companies, advising publicly traded companies, doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And it was because of this plant and kind of the restorative properties it's brought to my life.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. A lot of people have already, as we're a few episodes into this show, and we've been fortunate to record with some really great people. And the story kind of remains the same for people, right? I found it recreational when I was 13, 14, 15. And then I realized by the time I was 20, 25 that, holy shit, right? There's something to this. And similarly for me, I mean, I found it the same way, friends got into it, right? I was what do I like to call myself? A personal advocate, as well as, a connector of the dots, if you will, back in the childhood days. And so you were around it everywhere you went. Obviously, I'm a huge Grateful Dead fan. It's not only here, but anyone who knows me knows that's beyond my vibe. And so it was a kind of a, it all, the kid with the big hair, whatever, it all made sense, right? But then I started to suffer from migraines, right? Ones that would cause me to black out while driving a car.
Wow.
That sort of shit, right? And you start to get scared, you start to get worried. And I'd always lean back on cannabis. That's what I've done. Like, that's why I did it. That's why I got into it. And it worked. It worked every time. Every single time it worked. But as we live in the world we live in, right, I had to go see doctors, deal with all this. So I spent an entire day. Yeah, this is like, I don't know, 98. No, that's probably not fair. That's probably like 2000, 2001 in there. And I was at the Chicago neurology fucking department for a whole day. Wow. And going through what they call an induced migraine, dude, which I don't know if you've ever heard of this.
Sounds terrible.
Dude, they put a strobe like 2 inches from your face and make you vomit and get a headache. It is, and when you're hooked up to a million wires, they put you in what they think is a super comfy chair, which it very well might be, but it doesn't matter. Your brain is being scrambled like purposefully, right?
Right.
So they go through, they do all this. When they get done with the test, first thing they do is load you up with drugs to try and help you get rid of the migraine. Oh. Okay, well, most of that shit tears up my stomach, right? So can't use that. And at the time, I was having an ulcer from the medication. Trying to take an ulcer medication gave me headaches. It was like, dude, this is some of the dumbest bullshit I've ever been around. And again, you've known me long enough to know I don't really dig the establishment. I don't really go with the grain necessarily. And so automatically I'm like, fuck these doctors. This is garbage. So I had to sit in a room with like 10 white coats and all these images of my brain up on the screen and all of their opinions. And there's this spot on my brain. Nobody can explain it. Seriously, Tim, sitting there for what felt like a million hours. It was probably 2 hours of time.
This is at the end of this.
This is at the end of all these tests, the end of an 8-hour day of being in a hospital, basically being tested, being given a fucking headache, being given medication to fix it, to sit there and watch how and have you're hooked up the whole time. Million things. And I was just glad they didn't ask me to shave my head, because back then this shit was like 4 times what you see today. That was my biggest concern. My mom, before I went down,
don't make me cut the hair.
She's like, I can just cut your hair. It'll regrow. I'm like, fuck that. We're not, they can tie it back. They can find a way. We're not cutting my hair. And so when I showed up, they went through everything and all the brains find the dot. And they're like, oh my God, you have a spot in your brain. I'm like, okay.
What does that mean?
Lay it on me, right? Ready for this, dude? Within 2 hours of talking, it went from, man, this could be a tumor, to another doctor on the other side of the room going, no, it can't be a tumor. It's got to be cancer. Another guy over here going, whoa, can't be tumors, it can't be cancer. It's probably just a birthmark. Fourth guy going, I never even heard of a birthmark. I think it's cancer. Well, I think it's tumor. Dude, literally, I'm sitting there. These fucking doctors are arguing about what they think is going on with my brain.
With your
Meanwhile,
brain.
Nobody has a fucking answer. Okay? Nobody knows which way is fucking up. And they all look at me and they go, so what have you been doing, to deal with this? I'm like, well, I take your bullshit and it gives me more headaches or it makes my stomach feel bad. Okay, well, we got to find a solution. I'm like, well, there is this one solution. I'm slightly uncomfortable, right? 2001 telling a doctor, yes, I like marijuana. Like that doesn't go well, bro. And I did it. And they
might start blaming the spot on the weed.
They stopped, dude, dead in their tracks. They're like, how long have you been doing this? Like, I don't know, a couple of years. And I only try to use it when I get nasty headaches. Wonder if this is the cause. And I'm like, no way.
No, they didn't.
There's no way I'm going to sit here and listen to this nonsense, right? Like,
the medical establishment, yeah.
Not doing it establishment. So they say, here's all your medication you need, dude. I think it was almost $1,100 a month in what they wanted me to take. Okay. Granted, I was in the car business, right? Young kid in the car business, $1,100 a month, live in your parents' basement with a demo. Not that big of a deal.
Sure.
But I'm not doing that.
No.
There's no fucking way. So I pass and I pass on the meds and I stick to grass.
Good for you.
And it forever changed me. Forever and ever and ever. And it opened me up. People say it's a gateway drug. Here's what I'll tell you about gateways. If you're into the gateway, that's exactly what that drug is. If you don't understand what a gateway means, and when I say gateway, I mean a gateway to expanding your mind, to opening shit up. I'm not talking about addiction. Addiction happens the moment you come out the womb, okay? Whatever your mom was into, you're into. That's just the way shit works. So addiction is part of what's already in one's veins. I don't want to hear about how, did you smoke cigs before you smoked fucking weed? Yeah. Did you have your parents booze? Yeah.
So like, that's the funny thing. Like, I'm terrified. Like I smoked weed before I smoked a cigarette, and
really,
and still like, I will not like, I'm like, ooh, no, cigarettes bad. Like, now maybe if I'm drinking, like, yeah, like who doesn't like a Newport with a buzz, right? But for the most, like I was the dare kid. I was the, no, drugs are bad. Like you can't smoke. Like smoking cigarettes is bad. But yeah, I guess cannabis didn't have that same effect.
Well, I will tell you, smoking cigarettes is disgusting. I did it for a long time and I quit and I never went back. And people always tell all the time, like, do you smoke? I'm like, not cigarettes, and I leave it at that because up until recently, literally in the last 10 days, I've never eaten my weed either because I don't like
Really?
that. No, I don't. I've never, because I like immediacy, right? I'm a gratification cat. So
got it.
When you smoke a joint, you don't have to go looking and waiting and feeling. You are gonna get where you
what
need
am I
to
doing
be.
45 minutes from now?
Dude, and then in 47 minutes when I don't feel like I should, I'm all taking more of them.
Now I'm gonna go take a nap.
And then 3 hours later, I'm under the desk like, Tim, are we safe? Is everything okay? And so, yeah, dude, no. Anyways, the point is that now, geez, look at where we are, right? Like, as a world, I was just in a legal state in dispensaries, just thinking to myself, God, I love this. I love this because I bought and paid for my first bag of weed under Colorado Medical with a credit card in 2005, 4. Okay.
Dang, they were still like doing whoosh, like the
dude,
like
that was with the
EMV. Yeah. The carbon copy,
And then you get the bill, and the bill says something completely innocuous.
Totally,
has nothing to do with
Business
like,
Inc.
It's like Sam's Chiropractor or whatever the fuck it was. Like it was the craziest thing. And we still had problems with that and money and the government and what you can and can't do and banks lending. And this as well as anyone. I love the fact that banks don't lend because then people call me. So it's cool like that. But in the same turn, it's not fair, right? They've got to do something to fix that. So let's get into this, though. We've talked a little bit about your journey, a little bit about mine, kind of cross some hairs. Let's talk about, there's something interesting that I want to cover with you if you're into it, which is, before we get into why you created this, you and I have talked recently about being a parent, which I am not, of a child growing up in a legal state with, as far as they're concerned, their lifestyle will be making cannabis okay. And I feel like you're doing a job in how you're approaching it. Do you want to talk about that, or did I step on personal ground there? I don't want to get you in any trouble.
No. It's a fair question to ask, and I appreciate you asking it. And being that we live in a legal state, I feel comfortable answering the question, which is, what is my son's exposure to the plant? And I would say it's no different than a parent who has a 6-pack of beer in the fridge and has a beer on the weekend. He sees me handle the plant. He sees how I use the plant. He understands what the plant does for me medicinally and why.
And this is through your discussions with him. Like you've sat him down, you've explained each part of this, or like, give me some more context there.
Honestly, I think some of it is the curiosity of a child and just asking, what is that and why is that? Same as your kid might ask you, hey, you're having a glass of wine. What is that? Can I have a sip? No, my son does not partake. But I don't hide it from him either. He sees me work with the plant, and he sees me consume the plant in a safe and responsible and adult-like manner. With that being said, I think it's important for more people to be comfortable having conversations like that where appropriate, when appropriate, obviously, as well, with their kids, especially in a state where it's going to be legal. Like, it's going to be easier for my kid to go get weed, not because I have it, but because it's just going to be more readily available than it is for him to go buy a 6-pack of beer.
Like we say
Just
here in Wisconsin, what you hear say in Wisconsin, the most dangerous thing about cannabis being illegal is the fact that cannabis is illegal.
Right.
That's what makes it dangerous. That's what puts it into a weird place. And that's why people are slow to get to it, right? That's why you're finding such a boomer kind of boom into the cannabis space, because they couldn't do this before. They couldn't talk about this. They couldn't go walking into places comfortably and be able to learn and educate and do all those things. So I think it's important people hear that, and parents, save the hate mail. Really, I don't give a shit. I'm not a parent, so you could send it to me and I'll just delete it. And if you send it to Tim, he's likely to say something to you. So I'd also watch yourself there. My point to you is that everyone parents differently. And because I'm not a parent, I don't comment on parent matters. That's a landmine I'm not willing to step on. But when I hear progressive things, I think it's important they know. And I'm pointing this out to folks in legal states. If you act like it's not legal, you're going to be in for a world of difference when your kid is to the point where they can make a decision, because it is. And it is going to be available. And frankly, as I've said a million times before, it is easier for your kids to get booze and cigarettes than it is to get weed. Believe that, okay? Yeah. Legally speaking. You got to go in with IDs. You got to go in all kinds of shit. Fake ones don't work there because you got to be inputted into a system that will verify all that shit. This ain't like a liquor store. So, all right, enough of the parent stuff. T. Rowe, let's tell people, why are we here? Why does CannaBiz Conversations exist today?
It's a good question, and I'm excited to be able to answer it with you for the audience. Obviously, we've been friends a long time, and I've watched you consistently produce content for your primary business, for CarBiz Done Better on the automotive side. For what? I mean, better part of 6 years, probably going on.
Dude, by the time this episode airs, we'll be 2 weeks away from episode 300.
That's incredible. Like, and for anyone that hasn't done a podcast, like that number, it might not seem like a lot, or it might seem like a lot. Let me just put it into context. 8 out of every 10 podcasts started today never make it past episode 10. Out of the 2 that do make it past episode 10, 80% of those fail by year 2. So that means if 100 podcasts were started today, only 4 would still exist 2 years from now. So,
which is crazy math when you think about it. I think I'm just too ignorant to know if it's worked or it hasn't, and I don't really give a shit. I think that's the other part of it, T. Rowe. People ask me all the time, how do you measure the success? Or I've got nephews, Uncle Sean, you only had a couple hundred views on YouTube. What's the point? And I'm like, fuck you and your stupid kid math. Okay, look, I do it. For me, I do it for business. I do it for a reason, for people to learn about what I'm into. That way they don't have to ask me. That way I don't have to have a bunch of you guys. I see all these emails from people who always get text about wanting to have coffee or meetings to get to know each other. And I'm either not the guy everyone wants to get, or my podcast has done exactly what I thought it would do. And people watch and they go, I don't want to fucking talk to this guy. He's, whatever. Or holy cow, this is the guy that I need to talk to. So there's a point for it. All right. So you've seen the podcast. You've given us the statistics of failure, which as we sit here, probably approaching episode 10, I think we'll be back for more than 10, but you never know. All right. So you get the idea, because you already have a podcast, much like me, in your space, in the OOH space, right? Out of home advertising. Why this though?
I saw the void. So I've been doing a podcast in the out of home advertising space. That's billboards, wrapped buses, any sort of like offline media that isn't TV or radio or newspaper. And I've seen the impact that it's been able to create. It's a niche podcast. It's a niche B2B podcast. And it spends multiple weeks in the top 100 on Apple US Business News. I have a global audience of people in and out of the industry, people that work in ancillary or tertiary kind of roles. And I'm seeing the business impact for myself. And I thought, wow, there seems like an opportunity to combine the incredible interviewing powers of Sean Welsh, because I've seen you do it for 6 years. And I think you have such a unique style. It's very executive level with direct tactical insight. And that's like your interview style. So I saw a void that it seemed like there was an opportunity for cannabis to get that executive level, direct, strategic, tactical type of conversation going. And I thought, who better than Sean Welsh? I know how to do podcast mechanics and get the distribution pipes flowing. And I thought there was no one better to lead those conversations than yourself. So thank you for being open to the idea and already delivering on an incredible value promise. But
dude, like I say, I'm loving it. And when you brought it to me at first, I kind of thought, hey, do I really have time? Do I really want to commit? Because if we're going to do it, the one rule we have around here is that we do it. We don't half in, we don't half out. We commit, we go after it, and we try to make it worth something. And to me, what I've already seen happen is I've already had conversations with people that I've been following for a while, right? And I didn't think any of them, and I told you this when we got started, that I have a list of people, but I don't think any of them will say yes, because I don't have anything. No one knows me, right? Because I got in. So here's my problem, right? I'm an early adopter of shit, but not in a good way, because I way too early adopt. Okay. Like I bought CannaBiz Growth like 7 years ago. Right. and I still lost money. Okay. And so I put myself way out ahead of the curve. I'm just like, I have to be out here and out. And that leads to some failures and some shit doesn't go your way. And so
wins too.
There are wins, right? So like we were starting to grow in 06, 07 under the medical 08. That's when shit for us really started to happen. My wife and I were growing. We're like seeing this plan. We're donating half of our grow to cancer patients and families who can't afford it, right? Okay. And right away, people were like, well, how do you make money? You missed the boat. Like if you're asking me how I made money, donating my pot to people who can't afford it, but use it for their kids' cancer patients so he can eat at night, you don't get it. Right? You don't get it. And my wife and I became just so involved in the plan itself. And this was still in medical. Okay. This was in medical when I used to walk in with jars of this, not with water, right? Full of grass that I had grown. I'd crack the top. I'd put it in your face. I'd say, have a sniff, huh, friend? And they'd buy it, dude, wholesale. Like this was the coolest way.
That's how you made your rent.
Dude, it covered the cost of the rooms. I mean, there was no rent to be paid. My wife and I had bought a humongous house because it had an awesome view. We really didn't need the house. We don't have kids. It's a humongous house. But the view, 180 degrees of the mountains, laying in our bed were the mountains out our master bedroom that had its own patio.
They make movies like this.
Dude, I'm telling you, it was heaven. Okay, it was heaven. But the rest of the rooms in the house, the other 4 bedrooms, were all committed to weed. Okay? Every single one of them, whether there was a drying room, whether it was a veg room, flowering room, it's all there. We had it all scoped out. Every single thing you could imagine. Again, if I'm going to do something, right, I'm fucking doing it.
All the way.
So I threw myself into it. I ended up with 100 plus plants, which is a lot of work, but nothing like I see today on the guys like Glass House and where Damian Solomon hangs out, dude. Fucking just miles of weed, I think about it from my little scale thinking, oh my gosh, just 100 was stressful.
So what was the incentive for you then? What was the incentive of, I mean, you were undertaking from a capital standpoint, from a risk.
Yeah, of all of it. Yeah. I mean, really the undertaking was twofold. One, it was because my wife and I, we have a green thumb, we love plants. And then it was like, I had a great buddy of mine who was really, really fucking good at it and had been for a long time.
Okay.
And so he started to share some tips with me. And the reality was it was never supposed to be what it was. It's supposed to be small closet style niche stuff.
Sure.
So my buddy tells me and my wife, hey, look, when you go to clone, you got 50% live rate, die rate. Like that's just the way it works. So just plan on that as you go and plot out your next growth. Okay, well, that's what I plan. Well, Steffi and her green thumb had a fucking 90% live rate. So, and she's not killing a plant. she's not killing a plant, bro, once it lives past where it's supposed to. Like, if it's going to grow up, she's going to let it grow up. And so, okay, now I got to go get more permits from people, because at the time in Colorado, you could grow, I think it was like 8 plants per permit. And I had enough for 50. And I'm like, okay, and it all happened so quickly. And then all of a sudden you're like, 100 plants in here. And so for me, the motivation was to look at the plant. So I was a nerd, right? Like, I had a magnifying glass to zoom in to see if I had the right color to pull my buds and shit, hanging them upside down, washing the roots, like just all the shit I had learned. And it was a lot of work, dude. Anybody who intakes, grass, smokes weed, whatever you want to do with your weed, while it does grow on trees, it don't end up the way it ends up in your hand just fucking magically, people. I got news for you. And my buddies, at first, they were like, yeah, we'll come over, we'll trim. We're so excited. Bro, that lasted about 2 hours till people had rubber gloves that were stuck to their face and scissors that wouldn't work anymore, okay? So, like,
this is like an indoor farm, really.
Yeah, like, let's not make it look like awesome, but it was awesome. It was cool. And the reason I did it mainly was to give back, because I knew people personally with the stories you had mentioned at that opening. I knew people personally that were dealing with that. And I've been in the car business my whole life. So I'm fortunate that money isn't something that I don't go worrying about it much, and haven't. There's been times, sure, 08, was never easy for anyone. But in general, I've been fortunate that I haven't had to have that fear of life, right? Mm-hmm. My only fear was after I bought big houses and extravagant cars, was how to keep the ship moving. Yeah, that's you know what I mean? That's what became stressful when you were like, Jesus Christ, I got a $10,000 a month nut.
Yeah.
Right? That's stressful, but to make it, God put me on the earth to with one talent to make money, and I've got that. I'm good there. We're solid. But yeah, dude, it was to give back. It was to help people. It was to see the power of the plant. Again, this is before Colorado went adult rec. So this was just medical, man. And then I got a job offer. And it was a job offer to get out of the car business day to day. It was a job offer to be a consultant, have a 6-figure gig, kick your feet up, kind of have nobody notice you. The only caveat was they wanted to move me back to where I was from, Midwest. Oh, no. Initially, Steffi was not into that. I was not into that. She said, make him. Steffi said, make him do all this shit. Tell him this is the only way we'll go there with this. I mean, it was a laundry list of shit. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, good job, dude. This is a good way to get this conversation over with, so I don't look like the bad guy.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, you couldn't meet my list, so hey, it's just not going to work.
They said yes to everything.
Damn it.
Right. So I had to call her back and go, problem, friend. They're in. She's like, fuck it. Our families are there. Let's load up. But let's move to Wisconsin. Let's not move to Illinois. Let's whatever. So yeah, we go through it, dude. And I had to move my whole grow, and it felt like how
do you do that? Is there a moving company for that?
You got to go find a dispensary friend of yours who loves what you do and say, hey, bro, look, I got about $10K worth of product, material, lights, you name it. I got it waiting for you. I got to go.
Can't list this on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah, he's like, no, bro, we're in the fucking weed marketplace. And he was like, hey, Sean, I love you, but I know you're in a hot spot, so unfortunately, I'm not going to give you what you need. I'm like, I know. So we net each other out. We make a deal, and bro, he shows up in a fucking huge ass panel van. I clear out my garage. He pulls in my garage. We close the garage, dude. Him and his crew proceed to take everything out of my house. Steffi and I sat there, bro. We thought we were being stripped by the Federal Bureau. Like, we felt like our lives were in fucking shambles. We're leaving our beautiful house to go back to the Midwest, and everyone is taking our babies. And they just march them out one at a time and load these vans and load these vans and load these vans. And
like, you're fucking Roger Stone or something. It's terrible.
Dude, it was so upsetting.
Roger Stoner. There we go.
That was so exactly. It was so upsetting. But and then we moved here, and I had to take a drug test for the corporate gig, and I failed.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I failed, and I'd already moved myself. Steffi was in Colorado, finishing up the house shit, loading up, getting ready to come meet me, and they were like, "Well, you failed your drug test, so we can't."
That wasn't on the list. That wasn't on the list. Is like, hey, no pee-pee test,
dude. I mean, like, they told me. So I went 4 months. You know, the last time I didn't smoke weed for 4 months was the 4 months before I found weed. Yeah, that was the last time. I don't take breaks. I don't go on gaps. That's not me. So I quit for 4 months and still failed, according to the doctor, miserably.
Did they do the hair test? Was it your long, puffy hair?
No, it was just a piss test. But what I learned, more education, right? Because I didn't care about drug tests. I've actually a second drug test I failed in my life. First one I failed working at the Holiday Inn. My mom had to come pick me up. And I had to explain to her that I was fired because I failed a drug test. And of course, I was in a room with people smoking weed. And she's like, "You're a liar, and I know, and you're not going to get jobs if you keep smoking weed." And so I failed 2 drug tests, but this one, I was like, is it weird though? But like, I live in Colorado legally, and they're like, "Yeah, what do we care?" I'm like, "Well, I have a medical permit, so I don't think what you're doing can apply to me right now." And they're like, "What?"
Ooh.
Like, yeah, I don't
Like,
want to call a lawyer or anything. I don't think you can do that. They call me back 10 minutes later. "Get us the permit. You're cool." Okay, cool.
All right.
Got the permit, send it over. We're cool. Turns out it was the worst 18 months of my life. But it got me here. It got me into what I'm doing today, and allows me to have the life. So, but cannabis has always been, I am an advocate amongst advocates, dude. It's all I talk about. I say it everywhere. I'm an evangelist, if you want to say it that way.
Great.
I think everyone should use it. I mean, everyone knows the story of Charlotte's Web, young girl, can't do anything with her life, tons of grand mal seizures daily. All of a sudden finds CBD, changes her life, right?
Incredible.
I had heard that in Colorado when it had happened, because that's where it happened. And it was just moving. And it's everywhere. And that's what I'm hoping, Tim. I'm hoping this show has people, whether it's this season or the next, where we start having people on who have been that affected, who have been in that position, who can speak to both of us and say, "Yeah, man, this shit changed my life, and here's what was happening beforehand." And I got to tell you, I think for a lot of folks with your background on the military side, I think we've got to do a better job of integration to them, to the plants, and them to anything else that can help with PTSD, whether it's microdosing mushrooms, whether it's ketamine. I'm open to all of it. We got a ketamine shop getting ready to open in Wisconsin, bro. Blows my mind.
How's that?
Because it's not illegal?
Because big pharma's got a payout on the back end?
But I'm sitting in a state where I can't buy weed, but I can go walk into a ketamine
I can
clinic?
go get Special K I can get credit card reward.
Dude, from a doctor.
Points.
I was talking to a doctor. We were joking about it. I was like, "Yeah, dude, I can't get weed." He's like, "Well, if you need that, just come see me for some ketamine." Huh?
No, I'm just trying to get some bud, dude. Like, I'm good.
I'm not trying to go into the depths of my soul
like,
and rewrite history, bro. I don't need to do that right now. I'm not there. I'm just trying to, because again, I think it's something I talked about with Blake Viala. Everyone's got a vice, bro. Everybody wants to get down on something. Okay. And I am an addict of all of it. All of it. And it's only because I can control my addiction am I still living today. Because when I said you earlier about the gateway drug, right? The gateway to mind expansion. I found weed, then I found mushrooms, then I found acid, right? These things were fucking blowing my mind in ways that nobody could imagine. Again, everyone, "Oh, you're a stoner." It was never about that. It was about trying to how to unlock the brain to think more, do more than the next guy who's not willing to take the same risks. I get it. Yeah, we've all heard the story of the brown acid. Mostly when I do shit, I try to do my research, my due diligence, even in the black market. And you like to know what you're dealing with, who you're dealing with. So yeah, dude, drugs are something that if used correctly, and that goes for anything. Alcohol can be addictive. I mean, dude, you live in a state where you can buy booze, weed, and gamble on your cell phone.
Yeah.
Are there 3 bigger vices in the world?
But we can't pump our own gas. We are still the only state.
Dude, I don't want to get into the pumping the gas thing because I don't fucking get it.
Oh, and we got rid of plastic bags. We don't have plastic bags. You can't pump your own gas, but you can buy weed.
So do you guys just drive off with your gas too? Is that your problem?
I actually don't. They have stickers on the gas pump with like a really intimidating picture of like the proverbial state trooper with the big Smokey Bear hat. And it says, "In New Jersey, pumping your own gas is illegal." And I don't understand why. I really don't know. I was in the Marine Corps. I lived in North Carolina, so I came back with the skill of pumping my own gas. And sometimes I don't feel like waiting, and I just do it myself. So I don't know. That's illegal, but I can get bud.
But you can get bud, you can buy booze, you can gamble on you can lose your kids' college fund on your cell phone if deemed necessary.
But if I pump my gas, that's it. That'll be the end of me.
Right. And that's like me, right? I go to a legal state, which I'm surrounded by living on the island I live on. And if I come back across that border, I have now committed an illegal offense, and I'm the asshole because I went and bought it legally, paid tax, did the right thing. By the way, when we were driving around, we saw the driving billboard truck guy
Oh,
with
cool.
both sides were dispensary
For dispensaries, and they were
Yep.
driving what?
just
They were
and
driving
dude,
in
these we were on
Wisconsin?
some Tim. When I'm telling you, we were in the middle of
Back
fucking nowhere.
roads. Like, because
We
that's
were in the
like,
middle of nowhere, and this cat was in the middle of nowhere too. And because the way that the area sets up, there's major city here, major city here.
and it's
In
like a
between
land
is
bridge.
desolate, right?
Yeah.
So he drives from there to there, comes back, and I imagine
Comes
he
back.
just loops this road
Uh-huh.
all
Gets-
day long. And guess what? I went to that dispensary. Now, is it because it's one of the bigger names and I'd already seen signs? I don't know. But they had a
Maybe.
billboard everywhere, which, by the way, if you want real humor in your life, and I want to take pictures for you every time I see great
please
billboards
do.
because I think of you. You go from where I live up to Michigan. There is a stretch of road that we call the Fox Valley. The Fox Valley is covered in Michigan dispensary billboards.
Sweet.
So as a state, we will take your money for our billboard space. We will allow you to tell people where to buy weed. And dude, it literally, they started.
We're gonna send money out of our state. We're gonna lose tax revenue.
250 million, by the way, last year.
But we're gonna make it up on those billboards. I promise you, the billboard business.
We're gonna let you be
billboards.
That's like I said, start at 120, and every 20 miles, you're 100 miles away. You're 80 miles away.
Oh, it's like that, like Cracker Barrel.
Dude, you're 40 miles away. Come to Nirvana. You're 30 miles from Nirvana. You're this, you're that, right? Michigan's original weed place. Whatever it is, these billboards coat the road, dude. And it's terrible because, you know, the county now that separates the two on the Wisconsin side, it's known for law enforcement sitting and waiting. And it's just,
that's entrapment. Like, hey, we're going to advertise about it. We're going to show you like it's cool. And then we're going to try to bust you up. Like, and that just really, I mean, it shows you where the incentive structure is. It shows you where the motivation is. And unfortunately, that's not about people or the plan. It's about self-serving interests. And
it's never about the plant when it comes to anyone trying to be negative about it. It's always about self-serving interest that sometimes is actually based in religion. And I'll be honest with you, that part gets annoying for me too, because guess what? In all the times you guys are talking about religion, this plan's been here since then. Yeah. And so it's not something that's new. It's not something that's an original idea. It's just now becoming mainstream. And that's, again, Tim, for me, a personal hope of the show is that that's what we do with this, man, is we just put this beautiful plant in even more of a mainstream. That's why we love our man, Dustin Huxworth. And
it's so good. I mean, that looks like a collectible, like it's
dude, look at this thing.
That thing is, when he said it's like $3.95 a copy, and I haven't seen it
for dispensaries to get involved, right? For dispensaries to understand.
I mean, that, right? Like, to me as a consumer, right? If you get, it's the Estee Lauder play, right? It's the free gift with purchase. If you put that in my hands with a flyer, with a coupon, with my punch card, yeah, I mean, I'm not throwing that out ever. That's a beautiful piece of artwork. That's
dude. And while I was in Michigan, I shared it with a few spots. I was like, hey, just so you know, like,
what was their feedback?
You gave me a sticker and a pre-roll. That's super cool. I don't really care. This is what you should look into. This is what you should be thinking about. Let me know. I'll tell you the cat to talk to. And it's tough because, you know, the dispensaries, it's still a weird world, right? I mean, everyone's still, I think, learning how best to utilize and put space and what does it look, what do good stock shelves look like? And, you know, we're in a retail experiment, but I told you earlier how I like to just walk into a dispensary, crack a jar and pop open a nug, break it in half and just, you know, have it.
Yeah.
You can't do that shit in dispensaries, bro. It's all like medical, I call it, where it's all sanitized. You got these little plastic jars, like 3 little holes in it. You got to run your nose over it. And I was like, I mean, look, I'm happy to buy my weed legally. I'm happy to pay taxes for it, but could we improve the retail experience to make it a little bit more of an experience, you know? But
let me ask your take on this, Sean, because we've got it popping up in my town, just a little town in New Jersey, but we've got legal, legit dispensaries popping up, and I actually haven't been to any of them. But then we've got like the CBD store or like the smoke shop. They sell and it's very much that experience. Like, hey, can I get a half? Oh yeah, here's what we got. Pop it open. Now it's obviously they're not a legit dispensary, but like, what is? I'm not in the industry enough to know, but like, what is the distinction? I guess, why as a consumer should I be going to a dispensary? Is there a difference? It just seems like it's more expensive, and I haven't really figured that out yet.
Well, yeah, it is more expensive because they have to follow all the rules, and that comes with the taxation part of it. So what you're doing right now is you're supporting the black market, and that's not necessarily great for the movement. Now you'll see on the interview coming up, probably a week or two after you and I go live on this one, Jeffrey Hoffman, New York cannabis attorney. Yeah. He breaks down some of that. He really goes into why it's a problem and where it presents. But I'll tell you my perspective, which is while it's cool and you can do that experience part of it, that's why I told you I'm happy paying taxes going through it, because ultimately that is the people who get the dispensaries, Tim, that are popping up in your town, the mom and pops, the ones who are trying to grow the weed, have the weed, do it all from one spot. Mm-hmm. The amount of money, bro, they had to invest to be in that spot legally to do what they're doing is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, where the guy you're going to ain't got to do shit. I'll be honest with you, in Wisconsin, I'm getting really pissed off with seeing signs outside of CBD stores saying legal THC. No, it the fuck ain't. And even if it was, you cannot be doing that. I had a kid come up to me the other day at my bowling alley. Hey, Sean, you been to the local dispensary? What? Where's that? Oh, yeah. No, that's a smoke. Oh. No. They sell Delta 9. Delta. This is not fucking weed, people.
Delta nothing.
This is the problem, Tim, is that it's clouding the consumer journey even further. Okay. Even further. And even in the episode that will have aired a week before you and I are doing this show, with Aaron Raskin. Mm-hmm. Aaron Raskin and I talk about an experience on LinkedIn where a guy was, him and his mom, I think in Jersey. His mom wanted to go get some, edibles or whatever. They walked in a dispensary, had a crazy time, walked out. He realized it was probably a bodega illegal one, right? And didn't even really notice. Didn't even really go through it. Weed World is the big one out by you guys. New York, New Jersey. Those guys have the trucks everywhere.
I see some of these things around.
120% illegal operator.
How are they operating? Do you know?
Because law enforcement is only,
it's just a gray area.
We're all this thin. We're all that, again, Jeffrey Hoffman posted a picture the other day of a dispensary being busted, a non, approved one. And that's why I'm so big about it. Because from a small business perspective, Tim, people had to put up serious weight to get into that room. So, and I know you do support local. I know you are that guy. So I would tell you that even if it is more expensive, if you really want to do that for your community, you need to go in those mom and pop shops and do what's right, because these illegal guys, they're not helping the actual cause. They're only helping themselves.
It's good to know. And as a consumer myself, right. I guess, and that's where this podcast has been such a positive experience for myself. I'm so lucky because I get to listen to these interviews before they even come out. And the education, just even for myself as a consumer, and then to hear from the founders, to hear from the folks who are in the trenches, who've been in the trenches for decades. I mean, some of the folks that we will have right. So Dustin Hawksworth, that episode came out December 6th. We've got Aaron Raskin. We've got the Plant Geek, Damian Solomon, Solomon. All of those episodes would have come out before this.
And those dudes are founders and movers and shakers in an industry. And that's why I was at first, when you approached me about it, I was a little bit concerned, because I'm like, dude, these guys don't know me and they don't know that I've been here. I've been on the backside of this industry for a long time. Sure. I have not been public because I run a company. I do other things. This is my biggest pet project. It is my baby. It is what I like to do when my time is free, right? Yeah. So I was really concerned people wouldn't, be legit about it and be like, well, what does this guy know about the business? How does he live in it? But like I said, I was growing weed 2008. I was wholesaling it, to dispensaries. I had here, ready for this?
Show me. Greater Biz green business done. Oh man, was this like your original concept for like a
2006 first company to help medical dispensaries get online?
Holy moly. Yeah. 2006. There's still people using dial-up.
2006. And I had a bank account at a bank for this business.
That's incredible. And okay. So let's maybe double click into that, because specifically you enable cash flow, you enable financing for a lot of the growing, no pun intended, companies in the space where access to capital can either be restricted or come with a ton of T's and C's or crazy interest rates and things like that. Like, how did you arrive at a place in your walk with the plant that, hey, this is a way that I can start to give back to the community, that I can enable more growth, that creates a win-win-win for everyone. Right? That's a really positive sum outcome.
Yeah,
the work that you're doing.
It is pretty cool. It is pretty cool. It comes with a ton of risk, so I don't want to glorify it too far with people, right? Like giving people your money, even contractually obligated, even with personal guarantors, comes with gigantic risk. So does putting your money in the market. So does putting your money in a startup. All of it does, right? So I like to just move past that with people on the risk side. The reality, the truest statement I can give you is that everyone tells you diversify your portfolio as you get older, when you have money, to go into the market and go into real estate. Mm-hmm. So for those of you who might remember a little time called March of 2020.
Is that the beginning of COVID?
It was. And it cost me my dream of real estate. I was on the cusp of acquiring a multi-unit project. Something I had been working on for a while. And COVID happened. Things started to tighten. The buyer got cold feet. I needed a simple one-day extension because my bank and the transfers and all this bullshit, they wouldn't grant it because they didn't want the deal to happen. So they kicked the deal. I lost it. I had been trying to acquire a home property for like 3 years, had been in hundreds of them, put in tens of bids, like had been losing my fucking mind. Okay. So when this happens, a week later, I walk into a spot and immediately I look at Steph. I go, I'm going in right now. She goes, what do you mean? I said, I'm going to offer these people $50K over, cash only, right now, on the spot. I'm doing it. She's like, whoa.
You went like, full tilt.
Is that a good idea? I'm like, fuck this. I'm tired of banks. I'm tired of this arguing. I'm tired of all of it. I want this property. I want to do it now.
Yeah.
Luckily, they said no. They ended up selling it for 50, even more than I offered them.
Why did you say luckily?
Because it was an irrational, stupid fucking move.
Emotional. It wasn't a good business.
I was going to gut myself of $250,000 just to prove a point. Like it was, it was dumb. It was dumb. The house wasn't worth it. The rents were never going to add up. I had work to do. Yeah, there was an opportunity to expand, maybe add another room. None of that was going to work, dude. None of that was going to work long term. And I kind of fucking knew it, but what I was told I had to do to diversify. So in that same breath, as we're dealing with that, another buddy of mine calls me and says, hey, friend of mine has a small little fund in Michigan. They fund dispensaries. It's $25K buy-in. Here's the deal. $25K, 18 months, you get back, 22%. 18 months, 22%. That's like 11% blended if you want to break it up by a year, like each year. Because you can't, people hear 22%, they're like, oh, that's awesome. Well, if it's good for 4 years, then that's only, it's 5.5% a year. It's not
that up. Yeah.
Yeah. This isn't like killer return, bro. And so
like even with the market short, like very uncertain times. And
in my household, it's my wife is the market gal and I'm the risk guy. I'm the guy buying the Bitcoins, using apps, whatever. She allows me to take risks. I usually lose, okay, because I'm an early adopter and I'm too early and I'm out ahead of it.
You learn,
and not in a good way.
You learn. That's the cost of education. Is really
it is, and I've educated myself here in this space, and it's an expensive education. It doesn't look. It only takes one bad deal, give someone $25,000 and never pay you back to feel like this whole thing's a bad idea.
That's okay? A very good point.
But everyone in my world, at least, you need write-offs, so those are fine. You can't make a living off of that, but that's fine. Every very, 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 very fucking never. That's fine.
Right.
So my buddy approaches me and I was like, all right, dude. He's like, yeah, they're going to send you a monthly, payment.
Dividend check. And then at the last day, they'll do the whole lump sum. It's like it's an old lease back in the fucking 90s, the balloon payment leases. And so Ford red carpet lease.
I was like, all right, let's do it. And we did it. And then it worked,
you just gave him money and you got a check back each month, and then you got your 25.
And then the guy gave me a lump sum check with the rest of my interest, and I turned 25 into 29 or 30, whatever it was.
You're like, that wasn't too hard,
right? And so, without sounding like it's money laundering, you take that 25, and you just that 25 is earmarked now in my life, right? So when I got it back
for the fund,
that was it. That 25 stays here. So the next person to call, they get that 25. And I told you via text a couple of days ago that I'm about to recycle that original 25 now into its fourth deal in less than 3 years. And
it's interesting.
But it's only because it was gone to me. It's if you're going to get into the hard lending space that I'm in, you have to disassociate yourself from your money in a way you never thought possible. And I personally, Tim, have probably one of the most unique relationships with experience as it relates to money, because I've always made it. I made six figures by the time I was 20 years old. I bought my first house when I was 20. This isn't that, interesting to me, bro. Okay. It's not. It's that making money is just, to me, it was keeping it. Okay, bro. That was my fucking problem. All right. Anybody who needs it, you give me a sob story, bro, I'm liable to just scrape them off and take care of it, because it's just easier to take care of it instead of hearing the story. So now in the cannabis space, my disassociation has done me well. I don't view money the same way as most people. I don't have that like emotional bond. Like, we're putting up 25K. Yeah. We're putting it up at 25% interest. We're getting our fucking money back. Now, what I learned was that if I was going to be at 25 or below interest, which is really where I try to keep myself. All right, Snoop, that's enough today. That's it. That's really where I try to keep myself, is in that space. When that happens, people were like, I pay 32. And I'm like, well, okay. How about 27? And oh my God, save 5 points and they're in. And I'm thinking, wow, like I came to an industry, and I think it's always been this way, because I think we do the same thing at CannaBiz, right? We have a price point that is lower than anyone for a reason, because I'm not here to make $1 million on one person. I take the Office Space approach, bro. Take a penny, okay? Fractional pennies from a bunch of people ends up being great. No one has to think about it. I don't have to just go get one whale. I got a bunch of cool dolphins that jump around and we all have fun. That's what we're doing in the cannabis space. And then I was able to meet my guy, Aaron Raskett, through you.
That's right. I remember connecting you guys on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Because you knew I was into capital, and you knew he was on the search for capital, right? Yeah. And he and I are getting ready to do our second deal. And it's the biggest deal my individual fund has ever done. Awesome. And it's a big one, but it's also 6 months. 6 months. That's all he wants my money for. He's going to give it all back to me.
CannaBiz Connects. That's what we're going to call this.
I mean, that's awesome. And that's what and again, the show has been out. I've recorded, whatever many episodes before this one that'll go live at some point, and it comes up pretty much in every time. Wow. It typically comes up post show, because we'll have talked about it, in it.
Sure.
And then afterwards, people will be like,
hey, tell me more about that thing you got.
You dropped this whole thing. And so what I call myself is last mile funding.
Yeah, I really like that. I was listening to episode 1 that just came out with Dustin, and I heard that. I was like, "Ooh, last mile funding. That's really."
And dude, between us girls, right, and whoever else watches this show, when we got done, Dustin goes, "So I've never taken anyone's money, but." And so that's cool, right? That's what you hope happens. So yeah, I enjoy helping people grow brands. We just funded a deal down in New Mexico. Young guy, his email to me after he got our check cashed and everything. He's like, Sean, I got to tell you, it's the first time I could breathe since COVID. I can't tell you what that means to me, And again, I like a good sob story, but as I told him in my reply, glad to hear it. You still owe me 35,000 plus interest. So let's not get too excited and too into like me feeling the personality. And it came up on a LinkedIn post. Someone had said, a good friend of mine, Lori Halter out in Pacific Northwest, she had made a post about entrepreneurs and transactional versus, I think it was relationship type entrepreneurs.
Sure.
And I had come on and I had said, yeah, I'm a hybrid of both. And she immediately texted me and put on there, absolutely not, Sean. You are a total relationship entrepreneur. That's crazy. Well, yeah, in the world that you all see me act in day to day, absolutely. I'm all about the relationships. Yeah. But in my venture capitalist side of the world, it's only about transaction. It is not about the story is not what I buy. People have to submit documents to me on funds, where we stand. Yeah, this isn't like I just go, hey, I like you. Now,
I believe in you. You're not an angel investor.
But to be fair, there's a hybrid of that, because when Aaron comes back to me, right? I don't go digging. I already dug through Aaron's financials. I know where Aaron stands. So if he's asking for more and he proved an early payment cycle on time with all the interest, here we go. It's the same way I used to view car loans. I used to tell people all the time, why are we declining a car loan? The guy pays his car perfect. Oh, sure, he doesn't pay anybody else. Well, who cares? He pays his car.
Pays us. Perfect. Right.
Give him a chance to continue to pay his car perfect. Charge him a little more because you're worried.
I don't care. As long as he pays me, I'm good.
Charge him a little more because you're worried, right? And let's move on. And so, but we have definitely shifted. Early on, I would let the person getting the money kind of do more of the term dictation only because I was just trying to see where I fit and what things were about. I don't do that anymore. I don't. Now it's my terms, take it or leave it. And it's not because the market is tight, which I'm completely aware of. It's because this isn't a never-ending pool over here, man.
You didn't go raise a $50 million fund. This is like out of the bank account of Sean and Steph. Like, this is your retirement.
That's what I mean. Like, I'm out here taking risks on 20-year money, and my wife thinks I'm fucking bonkers, and she's right. I'm crazy, but when it all comes in, when it makes sense. But dude, right now I have a deal that's hanging out there that terrifies the shit out of me. The person does not communicate.
What are the scariest deals? Yeah, tell me, what are the scariest deals?
The scariest deal is people who don't communicate and people who want to call you after you fund them and give you long-range excuses to why their business model is changing.
Ooh.
Those are fucking terrifying because you approve deals based on financials that you see. You do those deals, and then those deals come back and say, oh, well, that model hasn't been specifically working, so we're going to shift.
But I lended you money based on these parameters.
And so, and my minimums, my minimums are pretty easy. And so when someone calls me and has a problem with a minimum and we're 10 months out from a full fund, we got a fucking problem, right? And that'll initially set me off. And while my contracts sometimes don't have collateral, I pay good lawyers. There's plenty of language in there that if I want to go being a complete asshole, I can do that. I haven't had to yet. And honestly, Tim, I've been thinking about it. I've been trying to figure out how to have this conversation mentally with myself about how far do I go? Right? Because lawyers are expensive, especially mine. Sure. So if someone owes you $25K,
right? What's the point of diminishing returns?
At minimum, we're willing to eat the interest, right? So we're willing to fund out whatever the 1825 would have paid us in interest. That's definitely lawyer costs. But from there, how far do you go? Right? Are you willing to go to 20 grand recovery? 15 grand recovery, 10 grand recovery, right?
And are you losing money to get it back at that point? Like,
and you will, right? As soon as you blow out the interest on the lawyer, every dollar thereafter is a net loss. But as I say, if I thought I was going to hit on every deal, I'd be ignorant, right? So I knew I wouldn't hit on every deal. And this deal, do you want to know what it is? And what the problem is? Once again, the thread of all of Sean's bane of existence. Can you guess it?
The government.
Too early on adoption.
Too early.
Okay, bro.
So
I invested in a ayahuasca retreat, bro. Killer idea. Probably like 5 years from now. I did it like a year and a half ago. So it hasn't been great. It hasn't been ideal. And I don't need people to write me books, right? But if I write you an email and ask you how things are going and your reply is, can we have a phone call?
Red flag.
Dude, it's about as red as this hat and I don't like it. And I'm not comfortable because I just asked you by email and I wasn't even like,
right. You weren't prying. You were just,
I was just like, hey bro, it's been a while. How are things?
How's biz? We just posted our best quarter ever. We just got nominated for X, Y, and Z.
Whatever, dude. We just got, whatever. We just got a new building. We just got a new, I don't care.
Hired two
really
people,
don't care.
Whatever. Yeah.
I want to hear about maybe you booked out some activities, started to get some revenue flowing. That's what I want to hear. So yeah, dude, those deals exist, but I'm going to tell you this. This podcast is going to allow me a space in the future that if people do not do what they're supposed to do, don't think I'm not going to utilize this platform to completely fucking fry people. I want to be very clear about that. That if I am wronged in my car business life, I never mention anyone's names on air. I never have. I built an entire 25-year career over there.
In the car business, which is not very kind to anyone.
Over here with my money, I'm not going to only put your name on this fucking show. I'm going to plaster your picture, your signature. I'm going to fucking bury you and be sure that nothing ever good happens for you again because you lied. And I don't like liars. And that's in any facet of my life. And I know that's probably aggressive. And again, much like you and I talked about, I hope that does turn people off of asking me for money. Because those are the people who would likely end up in that boat.
That's exactly who it would turn off. And just the same, right? That then enables the growth of the great guests and brands and companies and causes that we do endorse because we're willing to call out and weed out the bad actors.
That's right.
It builds everybody else up to an even higher degree. And I couldn't agree more.
I'm not going to hide from it. We're all in the same world. We all live as human beings here. So I'm going to dig with it, but I'm not going to continue to let it go by. So, dude, we have been rapping on this for a while. How do you want to close out this wonderful show? What would bring it all together for you?
I would love, Sean, and I don't think that we've specifically asked each other this question. I would love, this episode is going to air, 4 days before the end of the year?
Yep, right after Christmas.
What is your big goal for CannaBiz Conversations in 2024?
Wow.
So yeah, I told you we haven't asked this question.
Well, I would like to have a specific Wisconsin senator on my show.
Let's do it.
If I could get that done by 23, Miss Melissa, I'd like to make that happen because I'm here. I'm a constituent of the state of Wisconsin. I would love to help.
Paying voter.
I would like to help the movement. Trust me, I think I've got a pretty good head on my shoulders. I think I could be of asset to the organization and trying to help it, although I'm not a big government guy. But that doesn't matter. What I am about is legalizing the plant and putting it on its platform where it belongs in society, as we've talked about each and every show. But no, dude, I hope to grow this show into a way that people look forward to Wednesdays. You know, because that's the culture that I've created on CannaBiz. I think I've told you this before. If my show does not somehow get posted at 8:30 Eastern on a Monday morning, people text me, go, everything okay?
I assume you're kidnapped.
Right? Everyone assumes something's wrong. So I hope people look forward to Wednesdays, and I hope they come here for the education and they stay for the fun. Because the one thing that I like to do with my style is to have fun. I like to ask hard questions. I like to get into difficult discussions. Dude, we're going to get into coming up later on in the new year. You're going to be hearing from a man named Willie McKenzie. Okay. Willie wants to talk all about mental health. So we're going to come up with an episode. We're going to come up with a bit to have on this show moving forward that will be reflective of the mental health discussion. So what I hope we do is we continue to further the discussion around legalization and acceptance, mainstreaming the plant. But I also hope to have people on here who share their stories and feel good about what they've done and look forward to Wednesdays, dude. Now, that's me. What about you? Because you don't get to do what I do as a part of this gig. You don't get to be in the shows. This is as close as you and I will come to that. Although I have thought about you guest hosting. I'm not going to lie. I think it could be fun. Some of the dudes setting up on Twitter, maybe you should just CannaBiz.
Oh, yeah. Maybe we could,
you know what I'm saying?
That a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. Bird dog my own guess.
What are you looking for?
Yeah, it's, having grown now my own podcast and seeing the opportunity to help facilitate all of those things, Sean. That was what I saw as the opportunity, is you as the passionate vocal leader of a movement, and myself in the background and being able to facilitate that through good distribution, sharing content that educates and enables the community, and ultimately promotes the platform that is CannaBiz. I think that as we have more guests and we create more of that community aspect, I'm excited to see other entrepreneurs who benefit, who are accelerated in their own journeys as founders in their own careers because of this platform. That's something that I'm most excited about, is to see the guests themselves benefit.
I love it, man. I love the idea of people benefiting from it sort of in an ancillary way, right? Not in a way that you'd expect directly, but it was just, they heard the show, they tried something different, they did that, right? Yeah. And when I launched my Mental Health Mondays on the other side of the world, that's the kind of stuff I get. Most recently I did one about checking in on people. All of a sudden my DMs blew up, my text blew up. People are like, oh my God, you're so right. I talked to someone I haven't talked to in 2 years. Oh, they were so grateful, blah, blah, blah. That's the power of it. That's the reason for it, dude. I mean, I got other shit I could do with my time. So do you. Sure. But I want to do this because I want to help further the message. I've got the resources. We've got the effort between us. And folks, let's be honest about something. As you sit here and watch it today, this is a, bought, paid for by the two dudes you're looking at. This is not something that
sweat equity.
This doesn't create revenue. Okay. This is, as my wife calls it, it's a hobby. All right. So, and I guess my hope for 23 is,
I promise,
maybe we shift from hobby into business model in late 23, maybe. I don't know. It'll all depend on what you, the people, do. So, Tim Rowe, man, thanks a lot for joining the show. As you know, I really, really appreciate it. And I want to give the reminder out to everyone that it is our duty to elevate this plant to its rightful place in society. And that is why I'm here. That's why Tim's here. And we hope that's why you joined the show. So remember that as you go through your week. And you're going to want to join us next week, because The man we're going to have on turns oil into liquid weed. You're not going to want to miss it. T. Rowe, thanks again, buddy.
Thank you, Sean.
Have a great week.